Hello and welcome to a new episode of Dakota Boys Talk Movies. We're glad you're here. We're glad you're listening, and we hope that if you're hearing this, that means you're on the right new host feed that we have, and so hopefully that you've all figured that out. It seems like everybody is, by the way it looks, so it's just making it a lot easier, a lot smoother for us. So yeah, glad you figured that out. This episode, we're not doing a movie review in the traditional sense. We're going to be talking about essentially the state of Marvel as of late, I suppose it would be the best way to put it, Dakota.
Yeah, some news kind of just came out. I'm trying to remember how I heard this. There wasn't like a big announcement, but one of the papers leaked it. All the duds are not getting a sequel.
Yeah, well, and it was like one of those things where it's like, I mean, was Ant-Man 4 ever on the... It's funny, I mean, I suppose it was, because you gotta leave everything on the table. But to me, it was like, when they were like, Ant-Man 4 canceled, I'm like, was that ever a possibility? For a lot of reasons, not the least of which being Paul Rudd being... What is he now? Mid-50s? I don't know. I mean, I know he looks good. I get it. He looks good. But, you know, I mean, another Ant-Man would be 3-4 years down the line. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Ant-Man 3 was just... What was that, even? Yeah, and then what were the other ones that were canceled? Eternals 2.
Which, let's be real here, we all knew that was not ever going to happen.
I mean, no.
It was...
It's surprising the Eternals happened. I think the only reason it did was because they got that Chloe Zhao. And they were... Because that movie was like, what is this? Like, why now? What is this? It didn't feel like it was going to fit the world, but I feel like what kept that movie trucking along and why they had to just be like, oh, it's all going to work, it's going to be fine, was that they got that lady who was like a big art auteur of Oscar caliber, or we thought, because she had that one movie. And
he's referring to Nomadland.
Yeah, Nomadland. I couldn't remember what it's called, but it was like Frances McDormand wandering as a hobo homeless person, I guess. But okay, so what do we have? We got Ant-Man 4 was canceled. We got Eternals 2 is canceled, and I think Shang-Chi's back on the table actually.
Yeah, which is it? By the time that movie gets put out, it would have been way too long because. It feels like Shang-Chi came out like 10 years ago at this point.
And then there's talk that Iron Fist is going to be involved. I'm assuming not Netflix Iron Fist.
Yeah, it'll probably be
a different one.
It'll probably be someone that's actually Asian, and let's be real, it's Disney, so it'll be a woman. It'll be a woman.
Yeah, well, that's true. I didn't even think about it like the woman factor. But what was the other one that was canceled, though? There was another one that got canceled.
Let's see. Eternals.
We really planned this.
Oh, yeah.
Captain Marvel, of course. Duh. How could I forget?
You know, here's the thing. We never even got a Captain Marvel 2, though.
That is it. That is true.
So
that is true because if you've seen the Marvels, it is at best an in-between team-up movie that almost felt more like a Disney Plus show. It didn't feel like a Captain Marvel 2. And I think that was the thing, is that they immediately were talking about a Captain Marvel 2, and then it pivoted into this Marvels, and then now it's kind of... And it's funny, like you said, all of this was kind of just unceremoniously released. It just kind of like I think it was like Disney knew they had their stock meeting coming, and all this stuff just kind of got dumped in the process because... And I'm wondering do you think that was slightly planned so that way at the stock meeting, Iger could focus on the positives? Because it felt like the stock, his financial talk was very positive. Like all the things they got coming and all the good things happening.
Yeah, I think that was the case here, and I really hope this is true because It's what was the Eternals?
Well, that's the question.
I mean, you had
It was a
all
movie.
you had all these big names
It was crazy.
and
I remember
playing
when.
these characters no one really cared about, and it was supposed to be like, oh, this is the next phase of the MCU,
Yeah.
and it kind of just turned out to be a big nothing burger. It's
Right. Because it was supposed to be like, this is the future of the MCU. This is like, this is going to be who we are now. And then I don't know if you could say it was the biggest wet fart movie, but it did seem like uh, nobody really latched onto it. Like it didn't. It doesn't seem like any. It's not. I mean, unless it gets brought up, no one is purposely bringing up with like, um, excitement, the Eternals in any way, shape,
Yeah,
or form.
yeah.
And so it's just like, I don't know. It's just kind of, and that's I think where we're at with Marvel right now. Is I think what came out of that announcement of positivity was it seems like they are going back to the old adage of quality over quantity. They realize they got to slow down, and I think part of it was the streaming race. You can't not talk about the mess that is Marvel without talking about the streaming wars, and it's that they were just cranking to 11 to try to just be better than HBO Max, catch up with Netflix, which nobody can catch up. Even when Netflix falters, nobody catches them. They're just always the top, and I think it's just because they were first. They had a head start. That was a pretty decent head start. But I think that really hurt Marvel, the streaming crap. Even when there was a good one.
I think what really hurt Marvel, and I'm going to say this again, it's every single one of these duds is an
Right.
example of.
But I think it's because they were just
Just
cranking.
Terrible,
Yeah.
terrible decisions, and they still haven't learned their lesson. Apparently, there's a Wonder Man show being developed right now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think they're just cranking so hard that there's not as much love being put in because it's like we got to get the content out. And so it's like latch on this director that somebody heard of from something and latch on that person that somebody's heard of from something, and it's like, do these people care? And then their way of trying to make news with something is it's like, we got this writer who's known for some activism thing, or we got this person who's, and so then they're like, this isn't going to be your grandma's thing. And so like their way of making news even with it is for something stupid instead of why people actually like that character. Like, I'm looking at you a little bit, She-Hulk. Like, what the heck was that?
I think the biggest thing is the MCU was primarily successful when they were trying to just entertain people.
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
And
do you think they are still though?
I think it's learning while educating, I think, is what they're quote unquote doing now. I think that's Disney's MO now, and it's failing miserably.
Sure.
Ant-Man's daughter in that last movie was just so unlikable. I was kind of hoping she would like get killed.
The minute they did that whole "what are you doing for the world" thing, where she's like lecturing her dad, I'm just like, what are you doing? Your dad was the one who put in the last puzzle piece that literally saved the world. Whether you like or have problems with the whole rat bringing him back issue in Endgame, the fact of the matter is Scott Lang was a crucial piece in saving the world. And she's acting like, oh, you're just sitting around now. And then it's like, well, he's not just sitting around. The whole, yeah, like, what are they doing, Dakota? Why are they doing this? Why are they making you hate all of these other characters? Is it because they think we're going to like these new characters better? Like what they did with Hawkeye, too?
And I'm going to come out and say this. I feel like some terrible storytelling decisions were made. Like, oh, the reason why you haven't heard of the Eternals is because they were only supposed to fight the deviants.
Yeah, that's a
Like, nothing else like that. And it's like, okay, isn't Thanos technically a deviant because he is descended from a deviant? I mean, shouldn't they have stepped in to stop him? It's like,
Well, and the whole thing where it's like they're stepping in because they care about the world. And it's like, and it goes back to the Thanos issue, deviant or not. Like, well, you think you would have stepped in at that point? So I don't.
Yeah, then there was these rumblings that apparently they were. One of the ideas they had was that the snap with everyone coming back, that's what created the mutants, and I'm like, that's not going to make any sense then, because basically that mean Xavier was just some rich, educated guy. Magneto was just some angry, like what was it? Just some angry dude, like,
yeah.
my people are oppressed, man. And then now they're mutants, and they're like mutant kind forever. And it's just I am so worried to see what they finally do with the mutants.
Okay, so that's the thing. Let's move out of this. It feels like let's pretend they're doing what they claim they're doing. There's kind of this claim, right, that there's maybe some course correction happening. We're slowing down. We're gonna care more. And so let's look at. So here's what we got coming. We got Thunderbolts, we got Fantastic Four, and we got the Captain America movie. And we won't talk about Avengers. Let's just talk about those here. So I have a lot of concerns about this new Captain America movie for starters.
Okay, you're forgetting about Blade, the movie that's been in production since 2019.
I mean, I didn't forget about it.
It's been.
I just don't know is it still actually going to happen.
It's been delayed yet again, which all the rumors I've heard. I'm so glad this movie hasn't gotten made yet, because he was, from what I heard originally in the script, he was actually going to be like a minor character in his own movie.
Oh boy.
It was going to be other people, and it was going to be about life lessons, and I'm like, what, dude? And this is...
Well, it was probably... Was it another way of them trying to figure out how to get a female in the lead?
Yes. From what I heard, he was going to have a daughter that was human, that was doing like the legwork for him.
Oh boy.
And
there's nothing wrong with female-led movies.
And then something about...
Why with Blade?
And I think this is the problem. I don't think Disney knows how to just have like a movie where it's a guy out there fighting against the forces of evil. It's got to be like an ensemble movie, because the ensemble movies, that's what people love, Steven. And then they love the comedy, and it can't be rated R because we got to let the kids watch. PG-13 maybe. Yeah. And you gotta have some dumb humor, because we got to keep it on brand. People love and it's a family movie, but we don't want to lose the teenagers, so we'll have an unfinished F word and a penis joke. That's how you keep the teenagers in, but still kind of be family. This is why I said the worst thing that ever happened to Marvel was they got bought by Disney.
Yeah,
because are they gonna Are they going to Secret of the Ooze Blade? And what I mean by that is there was, back in the day, a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie.
Oh, I know where you're going
where
with this.
They actually use their weapons to fight. Yeah, Michelangelo was whipping people across the face with his nunchucks.
Yeah, and that was they were worried about losing their audience. But the funniest thing is in Secret of the Ooze, when they're all caught in that net and they can't figure out how to get out of the net, when 2 of the 4 have blades on them that can cut through rope.
Yeah, they literally, the weapons became just like a fashion,
just part of their outfit.
Just like a fashion choice. Like,
I'll have a soft spot for Secret of the Ooze no matter what, though, because I saw it was like an early movie I remember seeing in theaters. But yeah, I mean, yikes. Yeah, that'll be. There's no way they can do that to Blade.
But I feel like they're going to.
Well, because let's so there's one MCU movie where MCU adjacent. I don't know what it is. Coming out this year. Deadpool and Wolverine, both of which have blades. And it's rated R, I think. I think it's still rated R. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's rated R. How did this sneak by? Because it's Deadpool, I suppose.
Yes. Well, I mean, I think part of it was these Deadpool movies have made like a crazy amount of money, and they're made for like nothing.
True, comparatively.
And
yeah.
I think they couldn't just let it go. That'd be like slaughtering the goose that laid the golden egg. You can't.
But they've done it. Disney does that.
Yeah, but
they do slaughter the geese that lays the golden.
But
egg.
I think there was, and this wasn't under Bob Iger. It was under Bob Chapek. I think he was like, "Man, if we need a win, we need a Hail Mary win. This is it."
That's true.
And he had Ryan Reynolds in the back, like, "Put me in, coach." And he's like, "Yeah,
that's true." When you're right, because when this was announced, it did feel like a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
And then I feel like when the mutants entered the picture, it kind of developed into this Deadpool Wolverine. Yeah, because you're right. At first, I kind of forgot about that the announcement of this was like, okay, it was kind of a throw it out there.
And they got the Wolverine back.
Yeah, and then when Huge entered the picture, that really kind of, yeah, which he was never gonna come back again, supposedly. And here we are.
You know, I think he underestimated just how much money he was willing to probably take in order to come back.
Well, and I think he's another guy who, just as Disney needed a win, I think in a way, this at least financially will probably be a win. And Hugh Jackman, I mean, he doesn't have much else.
You know, I think also what it was is I think maybe he just wanted to do a fun movie with Wolverine.
Maybe
Logan, not a fun movie.
But
bleak.
It was a decent send off.
Yeah, but it's like I think you know, it's like, okay, we sent off the character, we had the Viking funeral, we mourned, but it's just like I think in the back of his head he was like, you know, I still got a little bit of gas left in me.
Yeah, we
left some cool storylines. They teased the costume in a deleted scene for the Wolverine, like his the classic costume, and I think he was just like, you know, this might be my shot to actually put on the yellow costume, have some fun, and here's the thing: this Wolverine actually did X2 actually did kill some people.
Yeah,
and I think.
Well, because he wasn't, and because it was made in a time before, you know,
these are for kids.
Disney acquisition. It was still like the early days of figuring out what superhero movies were. That he was just stabbing guys in the chest.
But I think they probably
in a school.
I think they probably told him, it's like, no, we're not.
Yeah,
we're not gonna. How would you put it? We're not going to put a muzzle on this Wolverine. He is going to be...
Which is probably why, you know, when they did Logan, I know that stipulation was he took a pay cut to get it to be to that level. And then that's probably why he really pushed to have that when he just goes steroid psycho in that scene in the forest. Well, I think Hugh Jackman just wanted to have a few moments of just full on, let me just be this animal, or what, you know. And so, yeah, what do you think this movie's gonna be, though? I can't figure it out. Like, is it gonna be like some sort of time traveling buddy movie, or is it, or what are we doing here?
I think maybe they just have a list of stuff they're crossing off because from the trailer it looks like they might be doing that storyline where like Wolverine was working in a casino and he had an eye patch and just I think this is just meant to be like kind of a just basically a big popcorn movie. I think they're really gunning for what No Way Home did, but with the X-Men characters.
Yeah, so who? Okay, so when you look through those X-Men movies, who would be a cameo you'd love to see that we don't know if it's actually happening or not yet?
I would love to see Anna Paquin's
Sure.
Rogue show up
That
and
would be
just
cool too, just because I feel like early on, her and Logan kind of had some moments.
I would love for her to show up, drain Captain Marvel of her powers, kill her, and then save the movie
Oh
by
my
taking
gosh.
out the villain.
That would be perfect now, especially now that like Captain Marvel, like Brie Larson's Captain Marvel is just probably like dead. If they just had her just go full on rogue, just drain her, and that would be cool. I think it would be cool.
And since they're doing the whole TVA thing anyway, which I did brush up on, I watched so many YouTube videos explaining this because I'm not watching Loki
because you
season one.
refuse to watch
Nope.
Loki.
Nope. WandaVision, as far as I went down that rabbit hole, I am not. She-Hulk, hell no.
Speaking
not even
of-
What If.
So okay, so we know Captain Marvel's dead. What did you watch the Marvels?
I did.
What did you? Where were you at with it? Do you feel? I know we kind of touched on it a little bit, but do you feel like that was anything?
No. I really struggled to care about any of those characters.
I kind of told you I feel the worst for the Kamala Khan actress. I feel like she probably has the most potential, but it's probably just kind of over.
I'm just gonna lay the cards out on the table. I hate the character of Miss Marvel. Only because
I mean,
only because they have been trying to shove that character down our throats for so long.
is she a real fan favorite? What is it with Kamala Khan being in everything? Like, is there a pretty big fan base for her? 'Cause she's in like video games and
Allegedly there is, but I think it's kind of it's a corporate push to get people to like the character, because I think I told you this. She's not well liked like Squirrel Girl. Squirrel Girl has a following. Like, people have been pushing for Anna Kendrick to play her for so long. It's probably never going to happen because I think she aged out.
yeah.
She's not Jubilee. Jubilee has like a huge following. Or even the girl from the New Mutants comics that I feel bad because, they turned that into a movie and I can't remember the character's name, but she has a following. And she actually has really cool abilities, and unfortunately that movie was just a nightmare.
Yeah,
Not in a good way.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, they've just been like, oh, she's a fan favorite, and it's just like, is she though? I don't think I've ever talked with anyone who's like, oh, I really like that character.
Well,
I can't.
that's what's kind of. It is funny how that happens sometimes with characters, where it feels like they keep putting them in things, and it keeps not working, and it kind of makes you go like, when are they gonna finally just? Yeah, like I guess I'm just trying to figure out what is the push if this is the case. Like I don't get it. It was like, is it because it's like we need a Pakistani on the team or something, or because it's like, when does it just? Yeah, because you're right. It just feels like, I mean, because that Avengers game she was in failed pretty. I mean, her TV show, they tried to act like her TV show was a hit. But then they're like, well, you just can't tell it was a hit because it was on at the same time as the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. And that's what affected it, which, well, that's a whole other can of worms, that Star Wars crap. But, and it just feels like it's, I don't know. It's funny how you're right, how some things they just shoot it. They just shoot it behind the barn. And then other things, they come up with every excuse in the book with why it's doing better than you think. You're just not seeing it. Like, it's weird how that happens. And so it's like, she must make them money somehow, or why would they keep throwing her out there?
I don't think she's really making anyone money, but
like, do her comics sell? I guess I don't know. Like, right now, I don't know if there is a Miss Marvel title, like a title Miss Marvel one going. But
I think there's been like 3 attempts to get a solo series of her off the ground, and they've all kind of just crashed into the ground.
Yeah, I think. Like I said, I don't think there's one right now, unless maybe there is, but
it's weird though, because you have Miles Morales, who is just universally loved.
Yeah, and he's one where it is funny. Like, man, it just seems like in every iteration, he's pretty liked. Comics, when he shows up in those Spider-Man TV shows, when he had a kind of a TV show for a time, obviously those Spider-Verse movies put him on a whole other level with a new audience. But
it's like, why is he so universally loved in this character? And I think what it comes down to is there's nothing behind her. She doesn't have like a cool, unique origin story. She's not particularly an insightful character. I mean, you could have her break the fourth wall. You can have her make jokes about, say she shows up in a Fantastic Four comic and she makes a joke about Reed Richards and Sue Storm having kids. It's like that was like you could have her make jokes about stuff that happened that had been retcon, and it's just like no one is ever going to like this character because she's just bland. She's blandness.
what?
Seasoning, if she was a seasoning, she'd be pepper. Like light pepper, not like...
It is funny. As someone who watched that Disney Plus series, I feel like... and that's what I'm saying. I feel bad for the actress because I feel like she's got more... There's more to her than there is to the character she's playing.
Yeah.
Now, what... Are you familiar with She-Hulk comics? Now, because here's my thing. I'm not. And all I know is I tried watching that show and it was painful. And I can't seem to get a consensus because there's a bunch of people saying like, I don't know why people are so mad if they like the comics because this is exactly how She-Hulk is in the comics. And then there's other people saying like, no, this is not the She-Hulk of the comics because I should know I'm a big She-Hulk comic fan. And that I could never seem to get a read on if that show actually was true to the comic character or not. Do you know? All I know is that show is pretty trashy.
Yeah, I'm going to come out and say no, just based on the few I read. And once again, I'm going to go back to the whole, they're trying to entertain while teaching you. That whole scene where she explains to Bruce about how she controls her anger so much better. It's just, they sunk the show when they did that.
Yes.
They sunk the show.
Man, that you're right, because that was first episode, and I'm like, do they want us to hate this character? Because we all, some of us had to swallow harder, but we were able to get behind this Mark Ruffalo Hulk and be fine with him. And then, most people, again, they were able to understand the whole Ragnarok thing and we went through it with this character where he was, you mostly liked him. And then they did that with this new, and it's just like, what are you doing? Why did they keep doing this in these Marvel movies?
Well, I think another big thing too is it was probably missing the brand of humor that the comics are famous for. Like maybe they should have hired like actual comedy writers that are just there to entertain people instead of you got to inject some more of this identity politics and like it's just because you look at the comics and some of them are silly, some of them are like this kind of off-brand humor, and I think but they have like a charm to them. Like get Howard the Duck in there. I don't know, do something to like.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, I feel like this show thought it had a charm, but I feel like it was like a situation where the whole time it just felt like the show was going, huh? Do you see our charm? Huh? Like, it felt like it was telling me how much I should be liking it. And I'm sitting here going like, but I don't.
Well, here's the thing. I think it was one of those things where it's just like, if you pretend hard enough, there's some charm in there. And,
maybe.
Based off the clips I saw, the joke where Bruce Banner says, oh, well, I don't even care about that. I was a different person back then. I think that was probably that was the best joke they ever wrote.
Yeah, probably.
Probably best joke they ever wrote.
Probably.
And it's just, I'm gonna compare and contrast Doom Patrol. The writers of Doom Patrol, they did have some modern day crap in there, but man, they always kept the irreverent humor going in that show, and I think that's why people love it.
They kept it true to what it was known to be.
Yeah, this is a different Cliff Steele, but it's still a character you really like, and a character that has like many facets to him, and it's from what I saw, She-Hulk, just I don't know what they were doing, but
it just felt, I don't know what the word is. It just felt like it was written like it was being a comedy, but it was written from a place of like anger, is what it felt like. Where it was like it was being mean. It would have been like, like when you hear about Elf, when Elf was getting made. This feels like a rabbit trail, but stick with me. And originally, Jim Carrey was going to play Buddy the Elf. And when I think about that version of Buddy the Elf, I think about how wildly different that movie would have been, and how it might not have been remembered in the same way, because I think he would have played it so much more kind of mean-spirited, where it would have been like his Grinch, where his Grinch was just like, was weird and had strange sexual things. And then and at the end of the day, I think even when his heart changed in that movie, he was still kind of a mean-spirited person. Because that's Jim Carrey's humor a lot of times, where it's just kind of like, even in Dumb and Dumber, he's kind of a terrible person. And
did you ever see the second one?
What's that?
The second Dumb and Dumber?
Well, I saw the prequel.
And when Harry met Lloyd.
But I saw the prequel. That movie was weird. And then I saw some of the sequel, and it was pretty bad.
Yeah, it'll make you actively root for those two characters to die.
Yeah, it seemed a lot meaner.
It's so bad.
But and that's what I kind of felt with this, with the She-Hulk stuff, and I don't know, and then you get into like, I don't know. So where are you at with this new Fantastic Four? Now we have casting. They have some guy from The Bear being the Thing, and everybody's excited because he's actually Jewish, and this is the first time a Jew is actually playing the character. And then we got, what is it? Vanessa Kirby, right? Is Sue Storm, and then Pedro Pascal, and then who's playing Human Torch? Now I'm forgetting. Do you remember? Oh, Joseph Quinn from Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Which I did like him. He was good. He was a good new addition in the newest season of Stranger Things. Speaking of which, man, that show, those kids are gonna be 35 before they end that show. But anyway, I could see where you'd maybe go with him for your Human Torch. I could see him maybe having some energy to bring to that. I'm guessing this is gonna, based on the new logo reveal, it seems like they're gonna try to go back to the roots of Fantastic Four a little bit. It seemed like they're kind of going old school with the logo. Like this is gonna be like Marvel's first family type thing again, and maybe not such the dark tone of that Fan Four Stick movie.
I really don't know what to think about that movie. I guess I'll just have to wait and see. But Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, I don't know.
It's not the worst casting. I feel like he's a better actor than because I like Ioan Gruffudd in the role. But I don't feel like Ioan Gruffudd is like the greatest actor in the world. And so maybe it could work. He's a better actor. Like I said, he's a good actor. He's probably the best actor who's ever played the role, because Miles Teller's fine and things, but
yeah,
he's not. I don't know. We'll see.
Do
you like Vanessa Kirby on the whole? Like things she's been in?
Yeah, for the most part. But
I only really know her from the Mission Impossible movies, and she's fine in that.
It surprises me it took him this long to finally get it out, because there was so much excitement when Disney bought Fox. There's like, oh yeah, the X-Men and the Fantastic Four are here, and it's like, for crying out loud, they cranked out a Predator movie. We have an Alien movie coming out here this year.
Yeah.
And it's just like we're just now getting around to
I
a
think
Fantastic Four movie.
For some reason, Marvel Studios seem to be wanting to like get a little room. But I think they wanted to leave a little bit of space to maybe get a little bit more of the bad taste out of people's mouths from some of the things in the past. Because there was some bad taste in the mouth with. Well, there kind of was with Alien though too. You're right, but just people remembering the last Fantastic Four movie and all the controversy and then I think the same thing with X-Men too.
Well, it's funny you
like
bring
they just wanted to leave a little bit of room because of there was so much people going. Well, whatever that Dark Phoenix movie is that they did last, was just kind of a wonderful catastrophe of sorts. And then I think the whole Bryan Singer controversy on top of that. Maybe you just kind of like try to get all of that out of people's minds a little bit more.
You know what's crazy though? Here's the thing. Supposedly that Alien movie that's coming out, it's called Alien Romulus. It's actually going to reference Prometheus and Alien Covenant, apparently.
What is?
Alien Romulus. It's going to reference Prometheus. Apparently
they're going to keep going with this engineer stuff?
Yeah. Well, not the engineer stuff, but there's going to be the black goo, and there might be a reference to the engineer because people have seen it. It tested really well.
Because that's coming out this year?
Yeah. Actually really stoked for it. And then not too long ago, they announced there's 2 more Predator movies that they're working on.
Who is director of the Romulus movie?
I cannot remember off the top of my head.
Although maybe sometimes it matters who wrote it.
Yeah. Yeah, but
because Prometheus was a Damon Lindelof screenplay, and I don't know if that helped it much, but
yeah. It amazes me how some of these screenwriters still get jobs.
I think it's one of those things where they have a few things on their resume they can actually hold up with pride, and then those are the things they're like, but remember I did that? What if it's the next that? And with Lindelof, I don't know exactly what that is, but it's probably on there. I mean, he can kind of do that with Lost, even though the ending was kind of polarizing in those ways. I think at the same time he'd be like, but I did, like people liked Lost, And what else did he have? Didn't he work on or no, that might have been his writing partner on Lost that did that because who did that HBO show that people like, not Watchmen, but the one where people were raptured or whatever.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Did Lindelof work on that, or was it his?
I can't remember.
Maybe Carlton Cuse was on that one.
He did work on Watchmen, though. You are right about that.
Yeah.
That dumpster fire of a TV show. Oh god.
But didn't that kind of go over well?
With the critics, yes, because it really cleaned up at the Emmys. But being a fan of Watchmen, I hated it. I'm gonna come out and say this though. No show has ever caused me to bust out laughing so many times. It wasn't intentional, but that's how bad that show was. That I laughed. I was like, did they just do that?
Well, I mean, just the thing you told me about that show, it just seemed ridiculous. But speaking of busting out laughing, though, I really want to talk about Captain America Brave New World, because if any of those shows that Disney Plus Marvel did, I might have laughed the hardest at the speech at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier when Sam Wilson, a character I historically liked until that show, and I'm just like, man, they really did this character dirty. Just Twitter ranted to those senators, essentially. And I think it kind of plays into what you've been talking about, where they almost got more into this. It's about the lessons we need to tell instead of just like forgetting it's a comic book entertainment. Because like Captain America, the Winter Soldier was first and foremost a political thriller comic book movie. But at the end of the day, you could say but there was still things there that you were able to talk about and think about, you're seeing Captain America, who was a soldier who took orders and he obeyed those orders, start to have a crisis of faith with that because of what he was seeing this country, this organization that he listened to, what they were doing. And I think in the midst of that, it causes you to kind of think about, like, oh, yeah, do you just blindly follow because you're supposed to trust these things? It was in there, but it wasn't that first. Whereas it feels like you're right. What's happening is they're turning that on its head, and what's being talked about, what's being put in first is we got to get across some sort of lesson. And then, yeah, if it's entertaining too, we can work that in.
I think one of the biggest shames out of all these recent Marvel shows and movies is they took a character that actually is incredibly compelling, that would probably make for a really good show, and they ruined it. And I'm referring to Taskmaster.
Oh, yeah. In that Black Widow movie.
For those of you who don't know, this is a man who has the ability to copy people's fighting styles.
Yeah.
And he is infamous for having beat a lot of heroes.
Yeah.
In hand-to-hand combat. I think Deadpool is one of the only ones he was not able to take down because Deadpool's insane. You can't copy his style. I think his style is kind of just all over the place anyway.
Yeah, sure.
But here's the thing. He's a villain, but he's actually a SHIELD agent with a wife. He has a family, and he is so deep in cover that he really doesn't remember them. But you have them kind of opining for him to come home, and a part of him does still remember, but he's just so deep into being this character that it's just that's kind of what he is. And I think that would make for, I mean, you could probably make a really good 2.5 hour movie out of that. It'd be kind of sad, but I think it would work.
Yeah, I mean, they've made a couple Punisher movies and 2 seasons of a TV show, and I feel like there's, by what you're saying, there's just enough compelling material with this person as there would be with like a Frank Castle.
And it goes back to, I don't think this MCU can do a movie where it's a guy just out there operating kind of on his own by his own rules. The kind of like Jack Reacher style storytelling where it's basically him against the world.
Yeah.
It's like they can't do that. It's got to be an ensemble. Nick Fury would have to be there. Maria Hill would have to be there. There'd have to be like some villain that's just kind of completely overdone, like they did in the Black Widow movie that we.
Well, I feel like even when they try to act like they're gonna do hero against the world, again, somebody enters the picture, usually a kid or a female, that just like mansplains everything to them. But it's not mansplaining because they're not the man. But for whatever reason, mansplaining is always considered a negative thing. But what they keep doing is just the very same thing, but from the other end, where it's just a kid or a female that just knows so much better. And so it's like when they, but yeah, you're right. They butchered Taskmaster because there's a one episode of Ultimate Spider-Man, the cartoon, that has a way better good time with Taskmaster than the whole of Black Widow. And it's where Taskmaster comes in, gets hired at Peter's school as the gym teacher, and then comes after Spider-Man, and it's great because it's like Peter's like, man, I already hate gym class, and now Taskmaster's my gym teacher. But it's pretty good. And man, yeah, what a shame. What a shame.
It's like, you remember, it's like, hey, Marvel, do you remember back when you used to have compelling movies?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I think they do.
Do you remember when there were stakes and people's lives were on the line?
Because here's this.
Because the Dakota Boys remembers.
Yeah, yeah. Because who? Let's see. The villain for Brave New World is expected to be Tim Blake Nelson returning. His returning character from the Incredible Hulk is rumored to be the
So
villain.
the leader,
Essentially the leader, I'm guessing. But who knows? They'll probably mess with that too. But I just so the very like literally today as we're recording this, the newest news is it's been test screened and it went horribly.
yeah, because they're reshooting it again.
And yeah, I think it's just because they're going into these things thinking they have something. But the other thing that worries me is that, again, they got a director who, why did you pick this person? It's a director who hasn't done much. And the one thing he's known for doing was the Cloverfield Paradox. The Cloverfield movie that got dumped onto Netflix was released after the Super Bowl, which they think was just Netflix's desperate attempt to get some hype for it. I fell for it, thinking like, oh, that's cool. They surprised us with a Cloverfield movie, because that's kind of what Cloverfield does. They contend Cloverfield Lane was kind of a weird surprise Cloverfield movie in a way, but it was horrible. I mean, it was horrible. It was directed horribly. Everything about it was horrible.
You know,
that's the main thing on his resume.
You know, I'm sure people are sick and tired of me saying this, but man, I don't think Marvel could even do a villain like Arcade decently.
I'm trying to remember which villain that is.
He's the one that he's basically like Jigsaw but silly. He builds the fun houses that he traps people in them and kills them. And there was these games back in the day. They were awesome. They were called Marvel Ultimate Alliance. There was 2 of them.
Yep.
Heard there was 3 of them. Third one was garbage, which not surprising. But Arcade showed up in those games, one of them. And funny enough, that's actually where you found Blade, because he stashed Blade in one of those claw games. And you played the claw game and you got Blade.
Oh, that's
and
great.
he was like, thank God you saved me from Arcade. And I'm like, that is the funniest thing ever, man.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
That was one of the greatest, funniest bits in those games. You saved Blade in the claw game.
In a claw machine. Did you drop him a few times?
But you saved him, and I'm like, man, that was gold. Like all these people working on these Marvel properties, could you even match that? Could you match that?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, not right now.
Because there's no fun. There's no fun.
Yeah.
You can't.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. When they do have fun, it's at the expense of just there's blood. There's blood in the mouth. And it's just like, and that's the thing. When you go back to what Marvel Studios initially was trying to do, they just came out the gate just making a fun movie with Iron Man. And maybe we can get this to go further, you know, and the hiccups that they had, they were learning from for a time. Like they realized they did put too much things going on in Iron Man 2. Tried to learn from that. Age of Ultron, they learned a lot of mistakes they made in kind of that Thor the Dark World going in, and then Age of Ultron with just too much oversight, you know, and then they're like, okay, we just need to put people who are excited about these characters, get them writing it, get them directing it, and just kind of trust that process. Started doing that for a time. You know, it's kind of like why they were able to bring in people like James Gunn and ones like that to kind of take these obscure characters and make obscure characters A-listers. And then I don't know what happened. Well, I have a theory in what happened, because I think there was a lot of things already in the pipeline when Disney took over, and they were kind of feasting on the residuals for a time. And then when they were full on controlling the process is when it started to crumble. I think the Infinity Saga was already so much worked out by the time Disney took over that they feasted. And then when it kind of came time for when it was all Disney all the time, this is what we're getting.
Yeah.
And I don't know what Feige, it'd be interesting to see what like, does Feige ever have to fight these things? Because it feels like he had a pretty good like hold on what was going on, and so part of me is just like, do they need somebody fresh? Does Feige need to go too? Like, is it even bigger than just Disney?
I think he's been drinking his own Kool-Aid so much. I think he probably needs to step back a bit because, I don't know if you ever heard this story, but when they were making the very first X-Men movie, they didn't really want any of the actors to know about any of the backstories. So he basically snuck in there with some comics and was like handing them out to people. He was like, read this. Has some kind of backstory for your character that you kind of, and it's like, that Feige, I think he's gone.
Yeah.
And the one we're stuck with now is the one that greenlit Secret Invasion. And it's like, man, in my head.
Oh man, why'd you have to bring up that show?
In my head, here's the thing. Secret Invasion should have been an Avengers movie. And it should have came right after Civil War. Because in the comic, basically, much like how things have gone down, Civil War just happened. Tony Stark has made some not the best decisions, and you find out about kind of there's some stuff going on behind the scenes, and there's this great scene where this Skrull, I think Empress, Queen, whatever she is, she comes out and she's like,
probably an empress because that's how they have emperors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she comes out and she's like, you have fulfilled my needs more successfully than I would have widely imagined because, you weakened the humans. And Tony Stark's kind of tore up about it. And funny enough, Black Widow shows up dual-wielding pistols, shoots the Skrull Empress, and she's like, Tony, do you think you're a Skrull? And he's like, no. And she's like, okay, I need you to just go with that feeling because it's game time. And I feel like that could have been a really, really good movie. And it would have, I think in a way it would have patched up, kind of healed the events of Civil War a little bit. Like maybe we made some decisions that we shouldn't have made, put some laws into place that we shouldn't have.
Do you think that I feel like what you're saying here, I'm not saying it's a terrible idea, but what I'm saying is, how do you think that would have affected where they did end up going into Infinity War? Because, of course, in Infinity War, they're famously all still broken up, which is why Iron Man says the blip happened. He's like, if we would have been working together, if we wouldn't have been broken up, this wouldn't have happened. But how would this affected where they did go with the Infinity Saga, do you think?
Well, here's the thing. At the end of the Secret Invasion comic, Tony Stark is kind of still is blamed basically for everything that led up to this. So he's on the run. So I feel like that would have been an interesting little switch where it's him and Maria Hill.
Sure.
And
so it still could have. It just would have been kind of a flip of what we had, where Steve's on the run essentially. Okay. Yeah, that could have been interesting. Anything would have been better because Secret Invasion was the most soul crushing, and I don't think anybody's soul was more crushed than Samuel L. Jackson. What? The whole time I'm watching. This is with the caveat that I watched the first 2 episodes. I couldn't even figure out if Samuel Jackson wanted to be there. It seemed like because part of me thought like, man, I thought this was his idea, like that he kind of wanted to like have a Nick Fury type show like this, but it seemed like didn't even. It felt like Samuel Jackson as a person didn't know why he was there.
Here's the thing, I feel like they another kind of drop of the ball. I feel like that happened. They really should have tried to integrate the Netflix Marvel heroes into these movies a little bit. We got that a little bit with No Way Home, and it was done to perfection.
It was a great moment.
Yes.
Probably honestly, that was, in a way, my favorite cameo in that movie, just because I thought it was just so great. How they brought him in, how they used that moment, how they had Matt Murdock just very dryly say, "I'm a really good lawyer." After catching that, I mean, it was just perfect.
Yeah. Kind of going back to what you said earlier about they get these directors who are known for like that Chloe Zhao was known for, she won the Academy Award for Nomadland.
Yeah.
But going back to how things used to be, Louis Leterrier, however he pronounced his name, directed that Hulk movie.
Yep.
And that is such a strong choice to direct.
Yes.
A action movie.
Yep.
Solid choice.
Because that movie wasn't long. It knew what it was, and it did it.
That is the sort of director they should have got. Chad, what's his name? The guy that works.
Oh, Stahelski.
Yeah,
the Atomic Blonde John Wick guy.
Yeah, I don't know. Someone with an action background really should have directed Black Widow.
Yes. Yeah, that would have really benefited that movie to have someone who understood. Even that guy who did the. I mean, again, I also want someone who cares about these characters.
You know what? Bring back Joe Dante. What's he doing?
Well, I was gonna say the guy, the director of Extraction, that Netflix movie, where it's like, where you have these stuntmen who understand where to put the camera to kind of capture. Because it's like at the end of the day, what you want out of a Black Widow movie or Incredible Hulk movie is like, you want there to be this story there, but at the end of the day, they're characters that they're on the move. There's action happening while they're battling whatever sort of internal conflict. So you want someone who can kind of like keep it moving. And so it's like a lot of people are kind of hard on that Incredible Hulk movie that was kind of a failure, but I feel like it was a failure only because of Iron Man being such a hit, and so it just felt like the lost movie after Iron Man, because it came out that same summer, like a month later, maybe a little bit more than a month, and I don't think it gets enough credit for what, because again, it was just trying to be a Hulk movie. It wasn't trying to be an Avengers Assemble movie or anything like that. They tacked that into the credits, I guess, but it really wasn't trying to be that. But I feel like, I mean, I understand what Ang Lee was trying to do with his Hulk movie, but I feel like Incredible Hulk movie just felt a little bit more what I wanted out of a Hulk movie, I guess. Yeah, and so I don't know. It hurts because I used to be so excited for these movies, and I can't remember the last one I was truly excited for, or one that I'm excited for in the future of any of this. Moon Knight was okay, I guess. I mean, there were some diamonds in the rough. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I thought was a pretty good send off with the Guardians. I thought I was honestly surprised at how it leaned into not being as hard of a comedy as the other two and was a little bit more heartfelt, had a little bit of a serious tone. That was surprising to me. Did you watch that one?
I did. Surprisingly, you know what my biggest, I think the biggest kind of distraction of that film was, it gets pretty rough. And
rough
more than like gruesome with the, experimenting on those animals, which is
everybody talked about that. I don't know if it's because I'm heartless. I never really felt I was going in expecting it to be just like animal cruelty, and at the end I'm just like, I feel like maybe it's just like I just don't have as much of a heart, but I felt like a lot of it was implied and not shown. And then when he gets his face kind of clawed off, it's just, oh yeah, I liked that though.
I
thought that was, but I felt like that fit. I felt like everything fit, and I really liked the arc. I mean, I say I liked it not in like show me more clawing of people's faces, but I felt like everything worked, which is kind of the weird thing with James Gunn, which he's kind of on the DC side of it all now in a fairly big way. is he has a weird way of making the oddest things work.
I'm kind of hoping this is totally off topic.
That's what we're here for, Dakota.
I'm kind of hoping with him and the way he kind of loves the off-ball stuff. Kind of hoping we see Mr. Mixias-Pitalik somewhere down the line.
Wouldn't that be great? Oh man! Or what's that weird little Batman imp?
Batmite.
Just do something like that. That'd be crazy.
Well, he's canon. He got referenced in Peacemaker.
Oh, crazy.
Yep.
Because I feel like if anyone could pull off, however you say, Mixer-Plixic, however you say it, or Batmite, it would be someone like Gunn. Or Gunn at least having his finger in how it's done anyway.
And I think he also might have the gall to be willing to do a Bizarro.
Yeah, that's another character where that's a tough live action because honestly, Bizarro's a tough character to even read. Because of just you trying to keep your mind wrapped around him always saying everything the opposite.
Yeah, I feel like there's some silliness with Bizarro though, because they did that thing where it's like he had the freeze vision and the fire breath.
Yeah, it was like all just way opposite. Yeah.
But man, I think the best depiction of him was still in Superman the Animated Series, where he's a clone of Superman. And basically, his cells, because he was cloned by Lex Luthor, his cells start to break down, and that's why he kind of becomes what he becomes. And it was sad. It was like really, as a kid, you're like, he doesn't understand what's happening to him, but in his head, he's still a hero.
Yep,
he's still Superman, and the fact that he's being told not to by this impersonator Superman, it drives him insane. Man, the people behind that show really knew what they were doing.
I would agree. Yeah, I mean, yeah. You know what though? I'm gonna stop you there. And what you guys didn't realize is you thought we're on some weird rabbit trail here because we're not even talking about Marvel anymore. But I'm just gonna say what this is. This is a teaser for the next episode, which we're gonna get into the state of DC movies. And so there you go. Here you're like, why are they talking about DC? Little teaser there. And so I think with that, we would love to hear your thoughts on Marvel. You can do that if you're listening on YouTube. Put them down in the comments. You can find us on Facebook. We're there. We put up random movie memes we find. Occasionally, maybe a movie update. I feel like it's mostly movie memes. But yeah, we'd love for you to like us on Facebook. And of course, the other thing we put on Facebook is whenever there's a new episode like this one on there, or and occasionally a tease for an upcoming episode. So we hope you do that. We hope you rate us and subscribe to us on whatever podcast app you listen on. And we're glad that you found us on our new feed host and are doing that. And we thank you for listening to this episode, for bearing with us as we just walk through and probably maybe angry old man curmudgeon a little bit through the Marvel movies a little bit. But thanks for listening to this episode. This is Steven.
This is Dakota.
We'll see you later.